Hello and welcome to this Gcse English online lesson 6 at Bournemouth and Paul College. Okay, so today's lesson is continuation of what you've been doing, looking at paper 1 reading. So what we're looking at today is the final evaluation question in the reading paper. Okay. We're going to focus on your ability to give personal opinions on a text supported by the text itself. And once we've gone over that, you'll be working on a practice reading paper using all those skills that you've accomplished so far to look at a whole reading paper to give you an idea of how it will be in the exam itself. So far you should have looked at the retrieval question, the impressions question, and the how questions. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at the final question, question 5, which is the evaluation question. So first of all, question is, what does evaluation mean? Well, discuss with your partner if you've got someone working with you, or else just pause the video for 30 seconds and try and write down what you think evaluation means. Okay, so evaluation means to evaluate and talk about the value of something, hence the word evaluation. Okay, so it's talking about how good something is. So in the exam itself, this question is about you and your personal opinion. What do you think about the text? Okay. However, the question will be kind of structured in a certain way to focus on one aspect of it. So it might ask you, is it a good story? Yeah. Is it an enjoyable story? Does it work? Okay. Is it successful in what the text is aiming to do? So if I show you some examples of evaluation questions now, it should become a little bit easier to understand. So one is, it presents an opinion and it asks you whether you agree with that view or not. So this one, the writer presents Jonathan as a failure as a father and husband. How far do you agree with this view? So in this question, what you would need to do is read through the text and then decide whether the character of Jonathan is a failure or not. Okay. A slightly different type of evaluation is evaluate the way the writer presents Lucy's mother Maureen in these lines and the passage as a whole. So this one's not asking you to agree or disagree with something, it's asking you to show how the character is presented. And the last one, the writer has created a very enjoyable short story with a satisfying ending. How far do you agree with this view? Okay, so this type of question is quite tricky in a way because it's asking you to kind of review the story and say, in what way is it satisfying, in what way is it successful, do you agree or not? Okay, so there are three types of evaluation questions, hopefully. So one presents a view about something in the book. Do you agree with that view? One is like an evaluation of how a character is presented, and one is like giving your opinion on the whole text. So what we're going to do now is continue working on from About a Boy, okay, using the same extract that was used in the previous lesson. Okay, so in this extract, the writer creates a very sympathetic yet funny view of Marcus. To what extent do you agree? So if we just go to the text itself, okay, so this was the one that we looked at yesterday. And we'll just read it through. Okay, so like it says, 12-year-old Marcus's mother and father separated 4 years ago. Marcus has recently moved from Cambridge to London with his mother. It's his second day at his new school. He's arrived early, gone to the form room to try and avoid some students that have been giving him a hard time. There were a couple of girls in the room, but they ignored him, unless the snort of laughter he heard while he was getting his reading book out had anything to do with him. What was there to laugh at? Not much, really. Unless you were the kind of person who was on permanent lookout for something to laugh at. Unfortunately, that was exactly the kind of person most kids were in this experience. They patrolled up and down school corridors like sharks. Except what that they were on the lookout for wasn't flesh, but the wrong trousers, or the wrong haircut, or the wrong shoes, any of which sent them wild with excitement. As he was usually wearing the wrong shoes or the wrong trousers, and his haircut was wrong all the time, every day of the week, he didn't have to do very much to send them all demented. Marcus knew he was weird, and knew that part of the reason he was weird was because his mum was weird. She just didn't get any of it. She was always telling him that only shallow people made judgments on the basis of clothes or hair. She didn't want him to watch rubbish television or listen to rubbish music or play rubbish computer games. She thought they were all rubbish. Which meant that if he wanted to do anything that any of the other kids spent their time doing, he had to argue with her for hours. He usually lost. And she was so good at arguing that he felt good about losing. She could explain why listening to Joni Mitchell and Bob Marley, who happened to be her two favourite singers, was much better for him than listening to Snoop Doggy Dogg. And why it was more important to read books than to play on the Game Boy his dad had given him. But he couldn't pass on any of this to the kids at school. If he tried to tell Lee Hartley, the biggest and loudest and nastiest of the kids he met yesterday, that he didn't approve of Snoop Doggy Dogg, because Snoop Doggy Dogg had a bad attitude to women, Lee Hartley would thump him, or call him something he didn't want to be called. It wasn't so bad in Cambridge, because there were loads of kids who weren't right for school, and loads of mums who had made them that way. But in London, it was different. Okay. So, the other thing with the reading exam is often with the same extract or the same lines, you'll be given two different questions focusing on two different parts of the writer's ideas. So, go back to this question. In this extract, the writer creates a very sympathetic yet funny view of Marcus. To what extent do you agree? So, what I want you to do now is read through the text again and think how much you agree with this view. So, first thing is, after you've read it, is think, do you agree with the statement? Okay, so you've got two choices here. Yes, you 100% agree with the statement, or no, you don't agree with the statement at all, 0%. Or is it somewhere in the middle? Okay, so in general, the approach is try to agree with the statement if you can. Okay, but if you can find an alternative view, or maybe something slightly different, that could help you get a higher mark. It's difficult to give a definite agree yes 100% because it does depend on the question. So for example, if we go back to the sample exam questions, so this one here, the writer presents Jonathan as a failure as a father and a husband. How far do you agree with this view? In this particular exam question, it would be quite easy to argue that in some ways he wasn't a failure as a father and a husband. In some ways he was, but there was evidence within the text that he was actually quite a good father in some ways. So, like I said, it's very difficult to say 100% yes, I agree with this. Okay, so but you need to be aware of the possibility of not agreeing with the statement, which is fine as long as you can argue it convincingly. So, the question is asking you, what do you think about the character and his portrayal within the text? So it's asking you two questions. Is he a sympathetic character? Do you feel sympathy? And is the character funny? So, what I want you to do is read through the text again and find all the different ways in which he is sympathetic. All the ways in which we as the reader are supposed to feel sympathy for Marcus. So I want you to pause the video now for maybe 10 minutes, read it through and see how far you agree with this statement. Okay, welcome back. So, Marcus, how is he sympathetic? So, from my point of view, I think as a reader we are certainly invited to feel sympathy for him. Okay, there are many ways in which he's quite a sympathetic character. So first of all, he's a victim of bullying. Yeah, so there's constant references to kids giving him a hard time, being thumped, being called names. Okay, so automatically, as a bullying is often obviously a horrible thing. If you've ever been a victim of bullying, so that automatically gives us his sympathy. Okay, he recently moved to a new school. Okay, so it's another reason why we feel sympathetic for him. Moving school's not easy, especially in the middle of secondary school, like moving to a new college. he doesn't fit in. Yeah, it's very straightforward. Lots of things we're told that, you know, he's got the wrong haircut, the wrong trousers, etc. Also, he's self-aware, so you know he knows that he's different. So I think that also creates sympathy for him with us, because we know that he's not how he should be. Yeah, but he's got that self-awareness. He knows what he's like. He's sensitive. Yeah, you know, that's that thing about, you know, his mum, and also about what the music he listens to, etc. But also his relationship with his mother it's quite difficult in a way. We get the sense that he, although he knows that, you know, listening to the right music, etc., in some ways isn't important. In other ways, it's crucially important when you're a teenager to like and, you know, listen to, watch the same things as other people. Yeah, if you don't enjoy the same things as your peers, it marks you out, makes you doesn't fit in. But his mother doesn't really understand this. Yeah, his mother's trying to make him something difficult. Okay, you know, so I think that, you know, relationship with his mother is also important. Okay, so also I don't know whether you looked at him. So next thing is to look at how the text is funny. Okay, which is quite a difficult question. Okay, so again, pause the video, just 5 minutes here, go through and think about how the extract is funny. Okay. So, like I said, you know, is the extract funny? It's quite a difficult question. Humour's a subjective thing. Okay, but the following could be classed as funny. Okay, so you've got the description of the bullies. They patrolled up and down school corridors like sharks. Except what they went on the lookout wasn't flesh, but the wrong trousers. His haircut was wrong all the time. Okay, the contrast between his outlook and the students, and the idea of that student, this little kid with a funny haircut, funny trousers, going around telling people off, listening to Snoop Doggy Dogg. Okay, so in terms of writing your answer, you know, there's two ways to start it. You could say, on the whole, I agree with the statement, or I can completely agree with the statement. Which is better? Well, I would say that, you know, on the whole, gives you the option of putting in a different point of view. Shows that you have engaged more with the text, if it's appropriate. But like I said, you know, maybe for this one, it would be, you know, possible to see that we completely agree with the statement due to the character of Marcus. Okay, so here we are. We have an example sentence. Okay, so again, I'll read it out to you. So, on the whole, I agree with the statement. As a reader, we are certainly invited to feel sympathy for Marcus. He's portrayed as someone out of touch with modern society and an easy victim for name-calling and bullying. We are told that he was usually wearing the wrong shoes, the wrong trousers, and his haircut was wrong all the time. Moreover, we are further encouraged to feel sympathy as Marcus is self-aware. We are told that he knew he was weird. He knew that part of the reason he was weird was because his mum was weird. His self-awareness also makes him a stronger character as he continues with his own life despite the taunts and bullying. It also seems he has a complex relationship with his mother. And then from here on, I would start talking about the relationship with the mother. So we've got an opening statement. Yeah. We've got referring back to the question. Okay, we've got the statement here where we've shown, you know, some summary of him, what he's like. Okay, we've got a quotation to follow that support that point of view. Moreover, please excuse the spelling mistake there, should be O-V-E-R at the end. Okay, so the next point, we know he's self-aware. He knew he was weird. Part of the reason he was weird was because his mum was weird. Okay, so in a way that makes him a stronger character. He's continued with his own life despite the taunts and bullying. And then we go on to the point about his relationship with his mother. Okay, so again, like I said, it's about going through the different ports. You know, I haven't mentioned everything here, so if I was expanding the answer, I would talk about the fact he moved to a new school, makes him sympathetic to us, and so on. And then I would go on to talk about how it was funny. So the other thing with this question is that you don't need to talk about word type at all. Okay, so it's not appropriate here to talk about the writer uses a simile, the writer uses short sentences or anything like that. Okay, it's really just focusing on about you interacting with the text. Okay, so what I want you to do now is pause the video and just have a go at writing out your answer thinking out the things that you picked out, whether you agree or disagree. So take about 10 minutes for this one, because obviously we've gone through quite a lot of it already. Okay, welcome back. So last thing to finish with there is doing a reading practice paper. Okay, so we've gone through all the 5 questions now on paper 1 reading. Okay, hopefully you've got a good idea of how to approach each question. Okay, so I'm just going to very quickly show you, if I can find it, here we go. So this is the hopefully you've been given this by your teacher, you've got access to it. Okay, so this is the text. So this is one from last summer. Okay, so you've got the questions here. Okay, so just a couple of things to kind of point out about how the question works. Okay, so it will specify which lines you need to read. Like I said, that's really important, yeah? Really important to know which part of the text you're reading, okay? So make sure you read those instructions in bold. So here we're told lines 1 to 17 for questions 1 and 2. So you've got list 5 things you learn about Jonathan. Yeah, as we said before, that's very straightforward. What impressions does the writer create of Francis? Again, so give your adjective to describe Francis and a quote to support it. Okay. How does the writer show the relationship? Again, what they say and do, use of language. What are Francis' thoughts and feelings? How does the writer show her thoughts and feelings? Again, what happens? How does the writer use language to create this impression? Again, be careful, you're looking at 2 different parts of the extract here. Okay, and then the final one. The writer presents Jonathan as a failure, as a father and a husband. Refer back to this one before in the video. How far do you agree with this view? How the writer has created these thoughts and feelings. Okay, so remember, like I said here, they don't make any use of language, just the quotations used. Okay, right, so this should take you 45 to 50 minutes. It's roughly 55 minutes, sorry. That's what you have in the exam. Okay, so now use the rest of the time, okay, to finish off this exam practice paper. Okay, so hopefully by the time you finished, you'll be expert at answering paper 1 reading. Thank you very much.
Wait, come on.